This is a thrill for us. We're going to talk to Coach Dan Mullen, of course. He'll be on the sideline whenever he wants, but I hope he stays on TV for a while because he's great. ESPN College Football. Coach Dan Mullen joins us, and we say hi to Coach. Coach, thank you for joining us here on Sharp Money. One of the lists that you put out on Twitter, at Coach Dan Mullen, was your top 5 quarterbacks of the week, and you had Talia.
Yeah.
Of course, in Maryland. Maryland heads to Columbus. Maryland's 5-0, Coach, and they're unranked. They're going to Columbus. It's a big point spread, but I want to ask you, do you think Maryland has a shot there at Columbus?
Well, I don't know. The shocker is, to me, they're not ranked, right? And you look at a team that's won. They're 5-0 at this point of the season, and everyone goes back and forth on rankings. Like, hey, is it on deserving or is it on who's the best or this or that? You have a hard time telling me that Maryland doesn't deserve to be ranked in how they've played and what they've done so far and how they've looked in doing it. They've kind of handled their business in every game. They're scoring over 31 points in every game. They played 2 Big Ten teams and blown both of them out. I know, they blew out Virginia. Now, granted, they're not quality top of the league teams. In fact, they're probably bottom of the league in Michigan State, Indiana, and Virginia. But they've handled their business. So I don't know. Like, when you have a quarterback and you take Leah Tagovailoa and you take him and say, okay, we have a guy that can make plays, that's a veteran player in a coaching staff that's been around with an explosive offense, I think you're always in a game. I think this offense is going to challenge Ohio State, and I think we'll see how good a defense. I think Ohio State's defense has looked really good this year, but I think you're going to see how good a defense Ohio State actually has in this game. And on your guys' end, I would be a big proponent of taking the points in Maryland.
Yes, sir. 20 points. How about Coach Dan Mullen, Amal Shaw? We love to hear it. Plus 20, take it with Maryland. Go ahead, Amal.
First of all, I'm a fan of his just simply because whatever they're paying you at ESPN, they should double if you got to work with Matt 3 days a week. Okay? That's my guy. We go back.
Go
ahead.
We're joined at the hip, Matt and I. We got Thursday night together, Friday night together, Saturday together. We're like golfing. If you haven't seen our golf partner, I don't know what the odds are on the Matty and Mullen Cup. He's 1 up through 3 matches right now. We play one hole a week at a course that kind of represents the area. Last week we got very fortunate with a game at Tulsa, and we got Southern Hills to play that 1 hole. So he's up by 1, and I guess if you look at the swings, he's got that pretty Arizona swing. I got that coach's swing that didn't play a lot of golf. So
yeah, Matt went to that higher bastion of education, Arizona State. Obviously we know that. But Coach, I got to go off topic here. There's no way I'm passing up an opportunity to ask a man that was crucial in 2 national championships. And I've argued this point all the time. More important to your run, number 1, Percy Harvin, or number 15, Tim Tebow. I've always said Harvin has gone underappreciated. We know Tebow's greatness, but man, Percy was something special.
He really was. Now, I'll give you this. To win the championships, you might go Tebow. Now, Tebow, granted, it's neck and neck. Tebow, I make the argument, is the greatest college football player in the history of the game. Right? He won a Heisman Trophy. He won 2 national titles. He was a 3-time Heisman runner-up or finalist. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these guys aren't going to stay 4 years anymore. And you put it now. But in the NFL, this guy was that, or that. Like, you take his college career, and I would say he's the best player in the history of the game. Now, that being said, he wasn't the best player on the team. He wasn't even close. Like, Percy Harvin was the best player on the team, hands down. Not even close. Best football player I've ever seen. Now, college football player, history, career, Tebow, number 1. Best player on that team, Percy Harvin. And it's interesting because you go back to both of them in 2006. Now, they're both stars in 2008, right? In 6, they're both role players. Tebow comes in as a role player. Chris Leak was the starter. Tebow would come in situational roles. Percy Harvin wasn't a starter and come in situational roles. And it'd be hard to differentiate who the MVP was. Percy Harvin won the MVP of the 2006 SEC championship game against Arkansas. He was the MVP of that game, and I think he played a total of 18 snaps. Total. He played 18 total plays in the game, and he was the game MVP because he was that much of the game changer. I mean, he's just that special. He's just different, you know. I always have a funny story. He played in the Super Bowl with the Seahawks, I think it was, right?
Yep.
And Jeff Collins was my D coordinator. We're finishing up a recruiting weekend of the Super Bowl. We're at a staff meeting, and Jeff looks, and I said, "Hey, wait till you see what Percy does in the Super Bowl tonight." He said, "I just looked, and he's not cleared to play. He had migraines, hadn't played in a couple weeks." They said they haven't confirmed he's even playing in the game. I said, "Jeff, I will bet whatever you want to bet that not only he plays the first time he touches the ball, he scores a touchdown." And I'm like, if he doesn't play, you win the bet. And everyone's laughing at the table because Jeff wasn't on those staff. And Jeff looks at me like, and I'm dead serious. And he's like, I'm not touching that if you're that serious about it. They kicked off to him. What does he do? Run it back for a touchdown. First time he touches the ball in the Super Bowl, he scores a touchdown. And Jeff calls me. He's like, I'm like, Jeff, I was going to go paycheck for paycheck, and head coach is more than the D coordinator on the bet. And he's like, thank God I didn't take that one. But I'm telling you, I think Percy was that special of a player.
He really was, and you can see why Coach Mullen is so electric on TV. He joins us here. Sharp Money. Okay, think about what Freeman and Notre Dame have done. They lose a heartbreaker at home to Ohio State. They go on the road. They win a heartbreaker against Duke. Now they head to Louisville. Brom's done a hell of a job with a start there, Coach. It's 6.5 Notre Dame's laying it on the road at Louisville. Tell me about this matchup.
This is a tricky one. You know, I love Jeff. Jeff Brom is possibly the most underrated coach in college football. Right? I mean, he wins. Now, I guess every once in a while he'll lose a game he should win, right? Which, as a coach, you don't want to ever do. But, man, he wins, and he wins without the better roster. With Jeff Brom involved, I hate taking the under on the game, and I don't even know what it is. But Notre Dame, for some reason, the first couple weeks of the season, Sam Hartman comes in. They finally have a quarterback. They're pushing the ball down the field nonstop. And then the last 2 weeks, they decide to go ultra-conservative defensive games. And I don't know where that's coming from. And, you know, Jeff Brom, man, every year, doesn't he always seem to come up and get somebody? I mean, in his career, he seems to come up and get somebody. And boy, doesn't have that written all over it this week, that he's going to come up and get him with two, you know, because I always say this, in college football, it's not game one and it's not game two. It's game three that gets you. So you're right. And you always, if you look at it, Notre Dame had to get up for an emotional game against Ohio State. I mean, a big time game. Win or lose, they had to get up for that one and put it all out there on the table. They go the next week to Duke, playing an emotional game. That is a fired-up Duke team. Now, Notre Dame's more talented, and granted, you know, it ended up being this defensive struggle. But it's always game three that gets you because you forget these are college kids. There's a reason no one goes undefeated in the NFL every season, right? Because eventually it catches up to you, and you're scratching your head like, how did this team just lose this game, or what happened in this game in the NFL? Because every week you have to play your A game.
Cool.
And you got me?
Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so every week you have to play your A game. Well, this is week 3 with a bunch of college kids in Notre Dame. Now, I love Sam Hartman. I love his maturity. I love his mentality. You know, I wish it was 7.5, like last week, like with Duke. I wish it was 7.5. I'd love 7 in the hook with like Notre Dame's not going to win this game by more than 7 points. They're not going to win this game by more than 7 points. So the 6.5 is the tease that gets you. But let's go with Louisville. Lay the points at home. Jeff Brom gets somebody everywhere. This is week 3 of a stretch for Notre Dame. And they have SC coming up later on. They're like, hey, they're being told they're still in the playoffs, and you just got to beat SC down the road, you know, and you're still in the playoffs. And, you know, Louisville's a little bit under, is that this team that's kind of a sleeper team. Let's go with Louisville on that one with the points.
Coach, you are a legend. We're going to miss you on TV when you go back to coaching. Coach Dan Mullen.
Hey, it's not a when. Trust me on this one. It is a big if, and that if is, I don't know if that's happening anytime soon. The TV world, I just gave you 2 great predictions, right? If I'm wrong, no one cares. If I make 2 bad calls on 3rd and 10, I am being just roasted by everybody in the world until we play another game. I have 7 days of you're the biggest idiot on the face of the earth, right? This TV world is a much better world we live in.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.